Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast, episode 291. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we probably should do a bit of a disclaimer. We are trying a new service out for this podcast.
Yes.
It's called Riverside. So we're not sure how it works, but it makes it, I'll tell you, it makes me feel more professional. I don't know.
It
It's got
does.
like a
It makes us
studio
look,
thing.
like Brian said, it looks like we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Kinda. And it supposedly is supposed to help the audio quality as well. I don't know how well it's going to work in practice. I haven't seen the finished output. I haven't edited the finished output. But if this works and we upgrade to this service, I think it's going to make the podcast sound a lot better, and it's going to be a lot less work on me. So we're hoping
Yeah.
this thing works out. And it's
Yeah,
neat
I
because
think
it does. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I
Brian.
think when the I'm sorry. Yeah, the advertising said it will make all the Tims more dulcet. So
Yes, our whole goal is to get as dulcety as possible
yeah.
with this podcast. But no, one of the things I was going to say is it has a video component as well. So potentially, if this works out, we could do live look-in type things where we have listeners actually watch us record. We could do like live.
And we apologize for
streams.
that, but
Yes.
Tim and
We
I
could-
chose an audio medium
could-
for a reason.
I could
No,
wear
it's-
a mask or something. I've got a
Yeah,
mask.
I'll have to dress
But
up,
yeah,
man.
so I'm excited about this. I think this could be a cool upgrade to the podcast. And now our other disclaimer, we got this whole episode is disclaimers, by the
It's
way.
basically the disclaimer episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our next disclaimer is we apologize for last week. So we were both just super busy. Brian was on travel. I had company coming in for Easter. We had it was chaos, and we just felt like we couldn't do a great show in the limited amount of time we had. I didn't have time to watch anything. It was just going to be a complete cluster. So we decided, you know what, let's just skip this week. We'll start over. I know we missed a dismemberment week, but we'll have that coming up this week. We'll make up for that. So I think there was only 5 titles released the first week of April, so you didn't miss a whole lot. So that was a disclaimer for why we were absent last week. And then the final disclaimer is about our topic for this episode. We're doing a top 10 list of found footage movies. And I had several disclaimers here. And Brian, I'll let you add on yours as well. My first disclaimer is we're treating found footage in a broad sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be footage that somebody found from people who died and they made a horror movie out of it. Found footage, we're referring to the style. So it's POV camera, shaky cam, blah blah blah. It's the general subgenre. It's not specifically footage that was found supposedly. The second disclaimer I had was, and Brian will agree with this on me, there's literally hundreds if not thousands of found footage movies. We had to narrow it down to 10. Obviously there are going to be movies that you love that are missing off of our list. And
there's movies that I love that's missing off
the
list. I can't fit it. It's hard.
When I did the first pass, and I did the first pass like rough. Like I was just like rough. Like I was looking at a list of 100 found footage movies and just picking the ones I'd seen. I had at least 30 just from that I would put on my top 10. And I had to cut 20 of those. So when you hear these lists, you're going to be like, well, why did they do this movie or why didn't they do that movie? And yep, I totally agree with you. Why did I not do that? I don't know, because this list would literally change every day, probably. So
yeah, it would. It's hard because, and also there's the way, and I don't know how if this is the way you did it too, but I did similar where I narrowed it down. I think I got to 20 and then I narrowed it down from there. But I did include them in honorable mentions so we could touch on those quickly at the end. But one of the things I tried to do is I tried to rank it in also not just how good the movie was, which is important, but and you kind of gave me this tip, Tim, like the way it impacted you, the way it like if it changed, if it did something to you, like saying like, oh, well, like, this was really good for the genre kind of thing. I kind of include those in there too. Like, because, like, and that's what you'll see that 100% in my number one when we get there is why I picked number one for that reason. And there's some on there that like part of me is like, does it belong in the top 10 over this movie? But like, I also tried to not have too similar movies because the found footage has developed since. I mean, granted, everyone thinks it started with the Blair Witch. It didn't. But there's other films before that. Blair Witch put it on the map, and then other movies went from there and put it on the map in a different way. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried to keep that all in my head and all in my decision process. So, and I did put notes on why I put it there. So I will give a little back, a little, not defense is not the right word, but like more of like the reason why I felt they belonged on there. So,
Yeah,
I don't,
same here.
and I'm sure Tim will have Tim and I will have some of the similar movies on the same list. I highly doubt they will be in the same order, even remotely.
Yeah.
But we'll see what's there. And it's hard because there's some that are franchises. And, did that sway my opinion a little bit? It might have, but you'll hear that in all the description, I think. And I think this will be a fun thing. And we'll see if people like that. This thing we want, the whole reason behind, let's be transparent. The reason we wanted to do this show too is because we want to record a bunch of these and kind of keep them in the bank for those times where we are short. I was going to say short-staffed. That's not the right word, but like we have a
We're
short
always
week where we're
short-staffed.
busy and we can't do something.
Yeah.
I know. We're always short-staffed. It's like me and Tim. But yeah, so stuff like that. So we kind of want to do a bunch of these. So hopefully you guys will like this format as a bonus where we can like shoe in ones where we can't fit a full episode in.
Yeah, because these are a little bit
definitely
evergreen, right? Because I mean, granted,
Yeah.
there might be a movie that comes out that we would have put on this list. It was so good, but in general, I think these are a little bit evergreen in that we can create these episodes, these top 10 lists, and we could just kind of put them out throughout the year when we have like lapses or where we can't get a proper show done. I think this would be
And
a
you know
cool
what we
way to
could
fill it in.
Yeah, and we could do like maybe once a year a bonus revisit where we look at all our top 10 lists and go over anything we think might changed.
Mhm.
Like it's just kind of touch on it. Say, hey, you know what? I got to put this in my top 10 list now. So I'm going to remove this from it,
Yeah.
something like that. We could always do that too. So,
All right, so I guess we'll get started. We're just going to alternate, and again,
Yeah.
like I said, this is kind of a special episode, a very special episode of the
yes, a
Civil
very
Gore
special
podcast.
episode of
This is not the one where I.
Gore. Civil
This is
Gore.
not the one where I talked to Brian about the dangers of doing drugs.
Yes, or Tim doesn't end up in a bicycle shop with with Mr. Gordon Jump.
I'm still scarred about that one.
Still, it did scar you, dude. That was a fun-loving show. You
Go
didn't
look
expect
up the
that.
very special episode of Different Strokes if you don't know
Yes,
what we're
different
talking about.
strokes. I'm sure you know it. Everyone knows that one, but they tried their best to throw some humor in there, but like it's still a child, even as a child, it made me uncomfortable. So, which meant that they did a good job on it. If you think about it that way,
yeah.
It did what it needed to. But that's for another episode altogether.
but anyway, so because of our very special episode, we're not doing a first chop or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just going to be our top 10. We're going to talk about it. We'll see how it goes. So,
although I will save some first chop stuff for next episode where we do have some, because I had some cool stuff that I want to talk about, but but we won't do it for this episode.
Yeah, because I actually went on vacation, like kind of a mini vacation.
Yeah, same here.
So,
and I had some vacation stuff, and I had like the book I want to talk about that I got. So yeah, we'll save that for next week.
All right. So my number 10, Brian might be surprised at some of these. I kind of I dug deep a little bit on some of these. My number 10 is Megan is Missing. This one,
that's a good one though.
Yeah. So Megan is Missing, and I forgot to put my years on these. So I'm gonna have to be looking up these.
I didn't put any years on mine,
time.
so don't worry.
Megan Missing, 2011. I went back and forth between this one and the Poughkeepsie Tapes because they're very similar movies. They're about the Poughkeepsie Tapes is basically the home videos of a serial killer. So it's showing some very disturbing stuff. Whereas Megan is Missing is about this young girl named Megan who is and how she goes missing. And this movie, to me, the reason it made the list is, and especially as a parent, was one of the most terrifying found footage movies I've ever seen in terms of the impact it had. And it follows kind of the same similar format as a lot of found footage movies, and it's a very slow burn through most of the movie and then a big shocking ending. And the ending to this one is still, to me, is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in any found footage movie. So Megan is Missing got on the list. I put it at number 10 because it's not one that I would ever want to watch again. I have no desire to watch it again. Like I said, it's a very slow burn. It's really only on this list because of the final sequences. and but I had to put it on here because it's the one movie out of this entire list of the top 10. It's the one movie that still like sticks with me to
Wow.
this day. So yeah, that one. Megan is Missing, my number 10.
Yeah, did you see there's that Life of Belle, which kind of has the similar vibes a little bit to it.
No, it's on my
It's
list
not
to
as
see.
disturbing in that way,
Yeah,
in some way Megan is Missing does, but I think you'll like that's that one that that Jeff Whitmire tipped me off to that was on YouTube that night. That's one that just spoiler alert, that
yeah,
is not on my list, but not because of any reason it's just when you hear my list, there's just too many to put on there. But it's a really good one. In kind of that same vein of a
yeah.
little bit as a parent, you'd probably be more disturbed. So I guess I'll do my top 10. I have a feeling this will be somewhere on Tim's list. And this was the one that was like the 10th lit was hard for me because I was like, I got to the point, I'm like, oh my God, I'm at 10 and I have like 5 more movies I feel like need to be in this list. But I tried to go through what was, I kind of went back to my default thing of impactful one. And I put on Houses October Built.
That was an honorable mention for me. That was an
Yeah,
honorable
see,
mention for
and
me.
that one, it was so great because this one, I feel like it was kind of made for like me and Tim,
Yes,
where it's
I
like a
loved
group
it.
of people searching for haunted attractions and stuff like that. And I just like the way they did it. They didn't do anything super groundbreaking. I think it's just, I like the premise of it. I like the plot point of it, and I think they did it well. Now they kind of ruined it a little bit with the sequel that was not as good, nearly as good, but
Right.
I didn't want to punish the original for that because the original was really well done and really fun, and I remember when we saw it how much I enjoyed it, so that kind of still stuck with me, so that's why I had to get it on here somehow. So made number 10, so it's just in there. But again, like when we go through our honorable mentions, it was tough to take some of these, and there's
Yeah.
one on here that I know someone is going to be screaming at me for not putting it in the top 10. But
Well, one of the
yeah.
reasons I didn't put Houses October Built in my top 10, the only reason is because I had another movie that was similar
Mm,
that I liked more. And so it just didn't make the cut. But that was definitely on my honorable mention list for sure.
yeah.
All right. So my number 9 is one from 2014, which a lot of mine were from 2014. Digging Up
That's
the
like the
Marrow.
year of oh my god, see? Shoot. Now that you just said that, that was one that I had on the list. I moved it and I forgot to put it in, and it probably should be in my top 10 because I
Yeah.
loved it so much.
Digging Up the
See, now this
Marrow.
is I knew that, and I told Tim, I said, you know what's going to happen. We're going to, when one of us says one, we're going to realize, and that was mine. That is a big omission. That really should be in my top 10 somewhere.
Yeah. This, of course, was the
It
Adam
probably would,
Green.
honestly, it probably would have knocked out Houses October Built just because of how much I like that one.
Oh yeah, this was
But
one of the.
yeah,
This was one of the first.
yeah.
I remember when I saw this movie, like I went and bought the Blu-ray immediately. This was again directed by Adam Green, written by Adam Green. It's got
One of my
Ray.
favorite directors, and I left him off. I apologize, Adam Green. That was a bad oversight. I almost feel like can I get a do over on my number 10 and
Yeah,
put that in, even though it might even be higher.
I
But
felt
it's
like
like,
what's funny is I felt like Brian forgot that one. Like I was when I put it on my list, I was like, I bet Brian forgot about this one.
but I didn't. I had it on the original one, and I think in the narrow. See, this is why. Okay, this is what I used to hate about when I would do a report in high school. So I hated redoing, like, everyone would do it like, oh, write it and then redo it again and re-edit it, and I felt like every time I would do that, I'd leave something out that I meant to keep in, and I
Yeah,
think that's what happened here. Honestly, it was there, and I like, now I'm looking for it, and I might have actually deleted it when I was trying to transfer it over, but I don't know. I can't.
but
I got to go with what I have on here. But
yeah,
as much as
there's
I
going to be
will
there's
say,
going to
though, that's like probably the number one honorable mention now. Then it has to be because I
yeah, this one
absolutely
was
love
great.
that one.
This one had some great like creature effects in it, some like super cool, unique,
Yeah,
awesome creature effects in it. Of course, it's got
and
Ray
Ray
Wise,
Wise.
who's one of my favorites. It's got Kane Hodder. It's such a
Had
cool,
Adam
cool
Green's
movie.
like real life in it. It was very meta too.
Very meta. Yeah, it was super, super cool. It's a neat story. It's got just really cool visuals. I just loved everything about this movie.
And if you watch some of the behind, like the deleted scenes, because I had the Blu-ray too. I think the deleted scenes were on there, or did I? I'm pretty sure it was on there if I saw it on YouTube. But there were some more deleted scenes about how, like, something where he had to stop what he was doing because he had to go do something with to film Holliston. So I'm
Yeah,
like, like, see, that's so like, that's a
that was
show
a
we
great
need
one.
to redo all of them. By the way, we need to review all of the episodes. I love that show.
Yeah.
Um, oh God, that's such a good one. I can't believe I didn't have it. Okay, and here, see, I broke my own rule because these two are similar in a way, but I couldn't not have this one on here, and this is my number 9, and that's Hell House LLC, because again, this is one where the franchise as a whole ended up making this even better. But there was a couple, like I was not a fan of the third one.
Yeah,
I did not like the third one. I felt there was too much cheating involved for the found footage. But the Carmichael Manor one was so good.
that one brought it back. Yeah,
That one
they
brought it
lost me with
back.
the third one.
Yeah, like I thought the series is dead, but they brought it back with that with the Carmichael Manor one, which was amazing. But I loved it again. It was again with the haunted house attraction, and I think what it was is it was one of the first one of the true found footage movies in a while that kind of gave me like the real creepiness vibe to it again, and where I was like, it was got. I like to say like, did I just see that going on in the background? Because it excelled in so many ways of like things in the background playing with you
Yeah,
like wait, did that move, did it actually move, or did like it played with your senses, so it kept you on your toes the whole time, that first one. And so I felt like I couldn't
yeah.
not have a top 10 list without that on there, because it overall it's one of my favorite franchises. But yeah, now that I look at it, House Octoberville should have been bumped for digging up the mayor, but I can't do anything about it now. Next list.
uh,
But yeah, so that's why. And I
yeah,
think it's the fact that the franchise is still going strong says a lot about that original. So
yeah. And, you hear it, and it's always on top 10 list of
yeah.
found footage films because, and I've got it on my list a little bit higher, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about it when we get to it. My number 8 was one that, again, I just thought was fantastic. The Taking of Deborah Logan from
Mm.
2014.
That spoiler alert, that is one of my honorable mentions. But
Yeah, that was a great one. Again, this one is kind of elder horror. You know, you hear about elderly horror, like you hear kind of that weird subgenre. But this one I thought
what was the other
was
one? Like The Visit
super.
that had elderly
The
kind
Visit
of
was like that
weird
too.
things.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was elder horror, which generally I'm not a super fan of because, like, to me,
yeah, that didn't
it's
even make my honorable. I mean, I liked it, but like I don't know why it just didn't make any of my part of my lists.
yeah.
So
I saw that one and I was like, yeah, because I've seen it recently, and I was like, it's not a bad movie. It was a nice comeback for M. Night Shyamalan, but
yeah,
it wasn't good enough to make my top 10. But and I'm not like a huge fan of like elder horror stuff, but for some reason, Taking Deborah Logan was super creepy. And if you've seen it, you know why it kind of goes beyond elder horror. So
yeah,
I love this one. I had to put it on there for just because, again, I was trying to make my top 10 list have some variety, and this one just was not your typical found footage. It did something completely different, and I haven't seen a lot in that same lane as
well, I
what
think
it
it
did.
dealt with the Alzheimer's slash dementia aspect a lot, and which is its own horror, right?
Yeah,
Because
right.
if you've known someone, or if you're living with someone that has that, you'll know how horrible it is in it's another way. So the fact that they treated that kind of with respect throughout that, and still found a way to make an impactful horror movie, definitely I totally see why you have it on there. It was in
Yeah.
my honorable mentions, but because it was so good.
Because a
But
lot of movies, that's one reason I don't typically like elder horror because I feel like it could be a little exploitative, and
yeah, and
but I
there's some
thought,
disrespect involved,
yeah,
honestly,
and
when you
I
do
don't
that.
like because we already as a country we already treat our elderly with disrespect. I mean, we just do compared to a lot of other
Yeah,
countries.
just
We put
watch, what
them
was it? The amusement park is the best example
exactly.
of
Yes,
best, and that was back in the 70s, and look how they were already talking
yeah.
about
I
that
mean,
now.
as a country, we really don't treat our elderly population the way we should. We put them in nursing
Right.
homes and we stick them away and we try to forget about them until they die. Like you said, I thought the Take of Deborah Logan treats the subject matter with respect, and in a way that a lot of other movies don't, and that's why I felt like it deserved a place on the list.
Yeah. My number 8 is one that have a feeling it's definitely going to be on either your list or your honorable mention, and that was Willow Creek. Um,
Ooh, that's a good
because
one.
the fact that Bobcat Goldthwait directed this still astounds me, and not because I don't think he could be talented. It's just when see every role he's done, or every other like stand up he's done, he's so zany and crazy. And yet he like did such an amazing job with this one. First of all, I do like any kind of documentary or found footage thing where there's like kind of like a quest involved. Like
Yes,
Tim and I always said, we like that one. It's not horror, so we couldn't include it here. But like the My Date with Drew kind of thing,
yeah,
like which you have if you haven't seen is really funny. Or like that Nintendo Quest where the guy's like going on a quest to get all the Nintendo. I love quest
loved
films
it.
like that.
Yeah,
When you mix it with a found footage and then you throw in a cryptid,
Mhm.
I mean, come on. This is, and for those who don't know, it's about this guy and his girlfriend who decide to go. He's like obsessed with Bigfoot, and like he wants to go tour the real areas where supposedly Bigfoot was, and he hits these towns. And there was one sequence in it alone where it's like the camera doesn't move for a really extended period of time, and it's one of the most effective sequences in a found footage movie I've seen, because it
Yeah.
just does such a good job of like it's like they almost forget the camera's rolling in there and kind of like let you see what's going on. It's just really cool, I thought. And so yeah, that had to be on my list at some point. I mean, Tim and I are huge Bigfoot fans, as you know. And I remember when I got this, I think it was Cone that might have tipped me off, said, "Hey, there's this it's like found footage movie that Bobcat Goldthwait did." I'm like, what? And I remember that was when I was getting like literally everything on Blu-ray that would come out. I know people think that I do that now, but that back then there was really no discerning thing. If it was like in front of me at Best Buy, it was purchased. But yeah, but I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. So I got that. I remember I watched it like right away, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad I saw this. I love it. So had to be on my list at some point. Honestly, I thought it might have been higher, but when I get closer, you'll see. I mean, it could flip flop with the next one, honestly, or around. But that's the thing with top 10 lists.
Yeah, I had Willow Creek. I almost put it on here. I ended up not, but it's definitely on the honorable mention. I love that movie, and I remember when it came out, I knew about it well before it came out, and I was looking forward to. I
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
wait till I could see it because you couldn't. It was still doing the film festival circuit or whatever. Right? You couldn't see it, so I was like counting down the days until I could watch that one. But that one was great, and it's known for that one sequence you're talking about. Like that movie is
Yeah.
known for that sequence, which is how
Yeah.
good it
And I don't
is.
want to say what it really is, because it
Yeah,
would probably take it away if you haven't seen it. But if you've seen it, it's one of those, if you know, you know.
you know.
If you
Yeah.
don't know, you'll be in for a nice treat.
All right, number 7. This is another good one that you may not have on your list, Brian. Creep from 2014.
No, you know why? I have not seen either one, and I'm saving it for this challenge now that we're doing.
Oh, you haven't
I haven't
seen
seen
it?
Creep. Yeah, I haven't seen Creep 1
Oh,
or
okay.
2. It's one that's been on my list, but I'm gonna use it for this because I figured I'd watch 1 and 2 together and knock off 2 of the 365 challenges. So
Very nice. Well, both of them are great. Creep is, of course, the Mark Duplass vehicle that is about a guy comes to. I don't remember the. He goes. He's a videographer, and he goes for this job in this like way out of the remote town, and he is being hired because this man says he's dying and he wants to have his last messages and stuff recorded, and so he goes to this guy's house to do this, and things just get, as you might expect from the title, things start getting super creepy, and it's just really it's just an unsettling movie. It's very it, I can't even. I don't want to describe it because I don't want any spoilers because Brian obviously
yeah,
hasn't seen it. But things get really weird, and it's just this. It has this great unsettling quality throughout the entire movie, and it's so different from anything else I had seen. And Creep 2 is actually pretty good too. But the first one, man, really had an impact on me because it was just so, for lack of a better word, creepy. So that's why it
yeah.
made my number
Well,
7.
and yeah, and I'm first to admit it's a tremendous gaping hole in my things that I need to watch. So it will be watched. And it's just one of these things where like I just need to sit there. Like I want to be in the right frame of mind for it because I've heard nothing but good things to it. So it's like one
Yeah.
of these where I just don't want to watch like haphazardly, I guess, if that's a way to do it.
And somebody told me one time that that I reminded them of Mark Duplass from this
But not
movie,
in a
which,
creep way. You're
well,
like the good Duplass.
he meant like from like appearance wise, but now I'm questioning.
Yeah, well, no, I
Like,
thought
what does
like
that
look wise,
mean?
I could see why someone might think you kind of look like him, but like not,
Yeah.
you're definitely not creepy. Anyone that knows Tim knows that creep is the farthest thing you'd put a moniker on Tim. It's like what's the word, the exact opposite of creep? That would be Tim. Um, I've known him for a long time now, so I could say that. Yeah, my 7. This one might be the biggest shock on the list, just because it's extremely recent, but. I will put why it's on there, and I know it's had a lot of controversy lately, but I am putting Late Night with the Devil on there at number
Ooh,
7
okay.
because I mean, first of all, I'm not gonna like hide my fact that I think David I can't even say the poor guy's name. David Dalmachian is one of my favorite actors, and he's so good in this, and I love the aesthetics they did. I know there's the controversy with the little AI segment that the thing that they put in there, but I again, like, with if you're gonna try and you take every movie, you're gonna find something that you can criticize it with. Someone in it, someone's this, that. But I think what I loved in there, it was just because it was a little different, and it was just like that. I don't know. It just kind of gave me a vibe that another movie, which is, I guess, is a little bit of a spoiler. It didn't make the top 10, but it's in my definitely in my honorable mention is Ghostwatch. I love those like capture in time found footage ones too.
Hmm.
And it blew me away so much that I'm like, and like this could be one where it's kind of in the glow still, you get that glow, like that
Yeah.
everyone says like the number one glow movie, like people use nowadays. An example is Phantom Menace, and I find that hilarious because they even spoofed it on God, one of some TV shows spoofed it that way. They said, "Oh, you sure you?" I think it might have been. Oh, you know what it was in the sequel to the Goldbergs, like Schooled, I think.
Yeah.
There was that. They used that in there. He's like, "You sure you're just not caught in the glow?" It's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And so, but I think this movie is really good. I mean, anyway,
Yeah.
I think it is just, and you can hear more about it. I don't need to go into why anymore because we just did an episode on it recently. But it's just I felt like it had to make my list right now, and it could be because it is recent. I know, and it could be probably one of my more controversial ones on this list. But I still need to put it on there because I loved it so much. So.
Yeah, I was toying around with putting it on there. I finally decided that I was going to, as you may put it, avoid the glow, and I wasn't going to put anything that was recent, that was kind of very recent. So I ended up just dropping it. But not that I don't feel like it
Yeah.
deserves it. Like years from now, it may very well be on here because I absolutely loved it. Which,
Well,
like I said, like we said, there's tons of movies we absolutely love that are not going to be on our top 10.
Yeah. Well, and also you got to look at it this way: every top 10 list can only be evergreen to a point. Because movies
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
not gonna. If movies stopped coming out, then yes. But with
Yes.
movies keep coming out and more things, and we're seeing way too many. We're seeing a lot, and a lot of found footage movies are. It's a big genre to come out with. And there's one on here that I is really new too that I that I wanted to make the cut, and I just couldn't find a place for it with bumping out something else. Although now it's so funny, I feel bad because poor like Houses of Octoberville is going to be my blame, and it doesn't deserve to be because it should be on some list.
Uh,
It's
oh,
expensive others.
my number 6 is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum from
Spoiler alert,
2018.
that is definitely in my honorable mention because I
Yeah.
did love that because I wanted to put a not US one on here, but I
Yeah. This
did. I
was
managed to, but not that one. I should have put that. That should be on here, but again, it's hard to
it's
fit
hard.
10 things.
This one was great. I kind of put this one on too because I wanted these not to all be US centric. Which I've got some other ones on here that are not as well. But this one, everything about, I love haunted asylums. I love the whole aspect, and they just did this one incredibly well. Like, it
Yeah.
was super scary. It was just, everything about this one was fantastic. So I had to go on the list. Didn't quite make my top 5. I don't even know that I agree with my own top 5, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think any of these could probably be, but it's definitely right up. If you haven't seen Gonjiam Haunted Asylum from 2018, do yourself
Yeah.
a favor, go track it down and find it. It's absolutely one of the best found footages movies out there.
It is, even though somehow it didn't make my top 10, but it's not because it's not good. It's just, like you said,
it's
it's
Japanese
hard.
kids at a haunted asylum doing like
Yeah.
a broadcast, like they're doing like a web broadcast of doing, which I also love. That's another like subgenre I love, where people like go
Yeah.
do a ghost investigation, or
Right. Yeah.
they're doing a like a YouTube stream from a haunted location, that kind of stuff. I love that kind of thing too. So that kind of just played right into being right up my alley.
Yeah. So my number 6 is one, and this is again, this is a franchise one, but I still remember the impact the first one made on me, and that's VHS, the
Mm.
original one, because it mixed two of my favorite subgenres, an anthology and found footage into one. It was the first that I really remember doing that. And granted, I like all the other ones. Of course, we have a soft spot for 99 because and 85 technically because two of our friends worked on those in various capacities. But I just loved the idea of it. And it brought you back to the 80s. It was on a VHS tape. It's like
Yeah.
found footage is always taped, but that one made it seem like they made it work well. And it did some cool stuff that I hadn't seen to that point in found footage. And this is going to seem weird, but like that's the first found footage I remember seeing nudity in. Not counting Cannibal Holocaust,
Yeah.
if you count that, but
No,
but I'm
and like
saying like this.
everyone has done something that broke the kind of like took found footage to a new level. Like, it's like
It
everyone's
did.
got a segment that like takes it further. Like,
That's
I
what I
love
figured.
that.
Yeah, and it like, and for the first time, like most of them found footage at that points weren't showing things, and this one had like that creature expanding, and it like went through a bunch of stuff, and it just went through and it gave like other like it split up directing, for their own segment, so it had a lot of like different voices in it, and I kind of like that. And there were some other ones that did that. They're not the only ones that do have family like that. What was that XXY one where it was the four female directors, which was really good. But like, it's just, I just remember seeing that. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing some cool stuff at found footage here. And it's an anthology too. So you're not like one story. So it gave like more creativity to try and pack in what you needed to in a few minutes on a found footage, which is like really wasn't done a lot. So so that one has to go on. And it's one of my favorite franchises, not just found footage franchises, but just franchises, because they continue to keep doing. And it's one of these ones I hope they do one every year, honestly.
Yeah. And what's funny is I did not put VHS on here only because I love the franchise so much I couldn't figure out which one to put on here. So I just
Yeah.
decided I'm not going to put any of them on there, and then I won't have to worry about it.
That was that was a challenge, and I was going to ask you. I'm like, can we use like as a space for like the entire franchise? But that's kind of a cheat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I had
I
to put the
thought hard
first one
about it.
because it was the
Yeah.
groundbreaking one.
No, that's definitely a good
Yeah.
entry. My number 5 was on Brian's list. That's Hell House LLC from 2015. That was my number 5. For many of the same reasons Brian said. He's right up our alley with a haunted attraction. Love that aspect of it. I just thought, one thing I thought about Hell House LLC that I don't see a lot, and it's always a criticism, is I thought they did a great job of that one not feeling too actory, where it felt
Yeah.
like everybody was actors. There's a lot of found footage out there that I've just taken completely out of because everybody's so theatrical, which I thought the first one, now I'm not going to say that for everyone in the series,
Yeah.
because I thought the second one kind of went the opposite direction. But the
Well, and they
first one,
started to do those little cheats for a while where they would
yeah,
like have like you deny like, oh, you're just watching like a boardroom of them talking or whatever, that weird
yeah.
sequence when they're in the room, and like I'm like, this isn't
But
found footage really anymore. It's weird now.
But the
You
first
took
one I
me
was
out of it.
just yeah, I was first one I was just super impressed with how authentic it felt, and like you said, all the little behind the scenes stuff that were going on in the background. They weren't telegraphing every scare. I just thought it was fantastic. And again, I like Carmichael Manners too, but by far this is my favorite entry out of all the Hell House movies, and I hope they keep making them because I just love this whole franchise. But
Yeah, well, from what there's supposed to be a series at one point. But I think the third one didn't do as since the third one kind of took people off. So I think I think they did the right move by coming back now with like a good entry. So now from this point, everyone's reinvigorated again. They're like, oh, okay, Carmichael was awesome. Let's explore that. I think the next one is I think I read it was more of a prequel-ish thing or something. But I don't know. We got to talk to Jeff Whitmire. He's like he's expert of all things like Hell House, so we'll have to ask him. My 5 this is one I know Tim's going to be like, oh, but I have to include it on here, and it's not just because it was my first film credit, so to speak, but
mm,
Paranormal Activity I put on here because you know what? It was when the found footage. It was, and especially I have a new appreciation after watching that documentary on it. But it was kind of at a point where found footage could have gone either way, and I feel like it kind of put it on the map more mainstream again a little bit by using this thing. And it was the first one was real. I thought was really fun. It was really good. I love seeing it with a crowd in the theater. I saw it 3 times in the theater. It was cool the campaign they used, like hey, bring it to your
mhm.
bring it to your town and all this stuff. And I thought they did like a lot of, it was a cool way to do it. Now, granted, I know some of the other sequels got a little off track and they tried to do gimmicky stuff. And if you watch the doc, I think you'll get a new appreciation, Tim, if you watch that documentary they did on it, Behind the
Yeah, I want to
Activity
see that.
documentary,
Yeah.
which is really one of the best horror docs I've seen. And so I feel like I had to put it on somewhere. Honestly, I was like, it was funny. It was up higher and I kept dropping. I kept dropping it a little bit. And now it's like kind of residing in the middle. And I feel like that's the perfect spot for it right now because I can't really figure out where to put it because things are better that came before it a little bit. And things definitely some came after it that were better. But I felt like it had to be on my list because it was one of the things that got me to really love found footage. To
Yeah,
keep my love for the genre.
I almost put it on my list, even though I'm not a big fan of it, only because of the cultural impact it had. And I know here's the thing. My reason for not liking it was not because of the movie itself. It was because I got so hyped. I was a victim of the
Yeah.
hype train. And when that movie, when that movie came out, people were like, "Oh my, it's the scariest movie I've ever seen in my entire life." And there was this,
And they were showing the audience reactions in the
yeah, it
trailers.
was like this
That's always
enormous amount of hype. So I was so pumped for this movie. There was no way it could have delivered on the hype that I was under.
yeah.
And so when I saw it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's it. Like that's okay. That was what all." And I think you know, I think you had to have gone gone in not knowing much about it, with the right crowd in the right circumstances. You had to be in that mindset to get the full impact of it, and I missed that. I didn't get that. I saw it
Yeah, I think I
way
saw it with
later.
Cone the first time, honestly. I think he came out to Long Island and we saw it.
Yes, I
If I
saw it
remember
way late.
correctly.
So it's just like the people that don't like the
Oh,
Blair Witch
yeah.
Project kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, wow, that's sorry about the Blair Witch Project." Like you had to be there. You had to be there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I feel like I missed the train on that one. And that's the reason it didn't make the list. But I can't deny the cultural impact of that movie.
Yeah, it's like it has to be on my list for me too. Like the cultural impact, but also the impact in me. I had to put it somewhere. I had to find a spot. So kind of putting it right there was like, put it right in the middle.
Mm.
That might be the perfect spot for it.
This one, my number 4, I'm still not sure if it's supposed to be number 4. But I put it on here because for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's not a U.S. film, and number 2, it's a horror comedy, which you don't see. A lot of found footage films have comedy in them, but I wouldn't classify them as horror comedies. There are
Can
some.
I guess what it is?
Yes.
All right. Well,
Guess
when
it.
you're done, ready, right before
But
you announce
okay,
it. Let me
but
guess.
yeah, but horror comedies are not typically found footage, and when I saw this one, like it just blended them so perfectly that I had to put this one on the list. So, what do you think it is,
My
Brian?
guess is Deadstream.
No, it's not
Oh, okay.
Deadstream. It was before Deadstream, but I know. But
Okay.
Deadstream's great. Deadstream's a
Yeah.
fantastic horror comedy, and I almost would have put that on there, but this one I think is better.
Oh, wait. Is One Cut of the Dead?
One Cut of the Dead, 2017.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, spoiler alert, that's the one that I think David McHugh is going to kill me on because it was just I couldn't find a spot for it and it kept dropping and dropping and dropping because I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh wait, no, but there's this." But this, and I love that movie. Don't get me wrong, I bought it. I have the freaking song from it on my iPad pod. Or iPhone now, I guess. What am I? A 1991? Yeah. Or when did iPods come out? I don't know, 98? I don't know what it did.
Yeah.
But whenever that came out, I'm iPhone. Basically, it's in my music library, is what I should say. But yeah,
Yeah,
and
well,
I love everything about it. I just couldn't find a spot for it properly. I don't
I had
know.
to put it on here too because it impressed me so much because I was so burned out on zombie movies by the time. That's the reason I didn't watch this movie for so long. I was so burned out on
Yeah.
zombie stuff that I wouldn't even watch it, and it like completely rejuvenated the zombie genre for me. Like that's how powerful this thing was, and I thought it was hilarious. It was just so clever. Everything about it was fantastic. I had to put it on here somewhere. Could it have been lower on the list? Probably. But you know, I, does it deserve to be at number 4 as well? Sure. I mean, it
Yeah.
deserves to be on here, so I had to go with that one. And
Yeah, I can't ever it's hard with you can't really criticize someone's top 10.
no,
Because
it's hard.
because it's
Like
to me,
every
it's what it
movie
means to
Brian
them.
has said, I agree with. Like literally
Yeah, and
everyone he
same
said.
with you.
Yeah,
I can't and it's good that we have different ones too,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, first of all, it'd be really boring if we had the exact same top 10 list. And what's good is it's kind of giving everybody else like more than just 10 if
Yeah.
they haven't seen them to go check out. But yeah, no, I agree with you there. That's a good spot. It could have made my list just as easy as it didn't. It's
Yeah,
one of those.
exactly. It's one of those.
It's hard with 10. It's too hard. We should have made this 20 and give ourselves less of a heart attack here. So number 4, and this one, okay, I gotta tell you the last thing. The last 4, well, at least 3 of the 4 easily could move around a little bit.
Yeah.
This was my hardest ones, but I kind of balanced here. Probably, and this is where I think the impact really made the decisions. And 4 for me is Host. It was made, of course, everyone knows the legend about it. It was made before a pandemic. I mean, we got to we were part of the little song that Jeff I did. Just everything about it came at a time when we needed something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It was at a time when people were separated physically, but this movie brought a lot of people together online. And I remember just loving everything about it, especially when we talked to Jed and knowing all the background that came in there. And it was at the fact that it was made during a time when nothing was coming out, and this came out, and it was just so cool. It really is, like, the way I like to say, it was a marvel to behold that they were able to come out with such creative things on that. It was so cool. Everyone was using Zoom at the time. It was like, it was such a perfect everything. Like, it's like, I mean, it could even be higher. Like, that's one of the ones. And I just loved everything about it. And I feel like it had to be on there. And even the little details that people don't notice, that the fact that the runtime was what it was, because that's about the hour Zoom session that everyone had. So it's
Yeah.
like just the little things like that. They managed to touch every little thing. Frustration about Zoom, love about Zoom, and then they've had a great horror movie, some spooky crap going on. And Jed still says there's Easter eggs he threw in that people have not found yet, and we're
Yeah, it was
talking like
amazing.
4 years later.
It
So
was
yeah, so I had to put that on there.
it was so amazing. It was my number 3. My number 3
Oh,
is
there you go.
Host.
See,
Yeah. So
that's our first really close one, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember. Here's the thing: in 2020, height of the pandemic, we had moved into our rental house because our house was being built. And so you can imagine, like, I'm in this rental house that I don't necessarily love.
Mm,
I've just been sent home from work, so I'm now working from home, which was odd. I was just getting used to that. We had this raging pandemic going on that everybody was scared to death of. You were trapped in your house. Um, it was just like, but when I think about that time, one of the first things I think about is Host, because
right. Same with me.
it
Yeah.
so embodied that time in my life. Like, I could even remember being upstairs in the rental where I had my little office and watching it, and also
Mm,
recording the Jeff video up there. And like, there was, it was one of those things that, like, it's simultaneously like nostalgic, but also, like, I knew it was a time of life that was a lot of worry and stress. But now I kind
yeah.
of, that helped me look back on it fondly in a way.
Right, it does, and like I said, like, it was embodied so much of that time, that where, it's like, I mean, granted, it was a miserable time for everybody, like, everyone together, but, like, what I thought was good is that everyone could kinda have something to, like, cling to that was a positive out of it, It's like there was something you could say, "Oh, like, but one of my favorite movies came out during that time, so
Yeah,
that can't be the worst ever
yeah, it
thing,"
was.
There's gotta be something. To always look for something good out of bad is important, so,
Yeah, that was
yeah, I
that one had to go on the list because it was so
Oh, I
of
saw
its
little
time.
Mia walk by.
Yeah,
Little Mia
yeah,
made a
Mia's in the
cameo.
she's
Aw.
wanting to go out, so she's
So cute.
freaking out.
By the way, I noticed something, Tim. You keep holding up a pen every once in a while. It makes it more professional, this list that
Oh,
you're doing, I
okay,
think.
yeah.
I
I'll
keep
pretend.
seeing it.
I'll do like on Weekend Update. I'll pretend like I'm writing stuff down.
That's the vibe I'm getting, man, in there. Okay. So my number 3, this is one that might be, I don't know if it's controversial, just because I don't know if people truly, maybe some people won't consider this a true horror, but I do, and that's Cloverfield. Because it's one of my favorite movies of
Yeah,
all time to begin with. I love monster films. I love giant monster films where, like, because it's always been something that I love, and kind of freaks me out if you think of it in reality. And what I thought about was so cool was the first kind of, like, blockbustery found footage to come out. Like, it was like if that was filmed normally, you'd basically have a Godzilla movie. And I still remember what was so cool was that I remember the teaser for it. I still remember everything about this. My friend Mark goes, "Oh my god, I saw the teaser for the coolest thing. I don't know what it's about. I think it's called Bad Robot," is what he said, because it was the Bad Robot
yeah,
JJ Abrams. And I'm like, "Oh," I said. At that point, it was like, wasn't as easy to necessarily find, like, trailers online like it is now. And so I remember I, like, searched and I saw the trailer and I'm like, "Oh my god, what is this?" I said, "Is this like a Godzilla movie? Is this a secret Godzilla movie?" And that was, I remember, like, people online were thinking that's what it was or something. And then when I went in, I remember I saw it in the theater and I just, like, "Oh my god, I love this. I love this cool premise about, like, this thing." And the fact that it was New York City made it, and I was living in New York, of course. Just all that kind of stuff puts it up there for me. And I'm still waiting for a proper sequel to it, like all the other things that they've tried to do. And there's still rumors that there's a true sequel coming out. But if you remember back then too, there was a lot of like viral stuff going on. Like people were saying like I remember after seeing it, and it wasn't until I got it back on Blu-ray where they said, well, if you look at the last sequence when they're on the train, you can see the creatures flash into the ocean. And I remember like, oh, what? And I quickly whipped out the Blu-ray and like looked to see if I can find it. And had to do it like 5 times before I finally saw it go in. And just the whole thing with the mix, the drink that they used in there, like the soda company like element to it. And then they had a whole bunch of cool like behind the scenes and like bonus stuff on the Blu-ray. Just the whole thing like kind of captured me to it. And so it's like I felt like I have to put it on somewhere. Like it's just one of my favorite movies overall, let alone found footage. So, but I could see why it would be a controversial one for some people to put it to classify it as a true horror film.
I feel like it was an oversight on my part because I totally forgot about it being found footage. And I think it's because we've had so many Cloverfield spin-off type things that I kind of like it kind of fades into my brain, that not realizing that it was not only a found footage movie, but like on an epic scale that had never been done before, which is super cool.
Right. And that's why, and that's why to me, it's like, I remember like seeing like, oh my God, I can't believe how cool this is. Like, I'm like, oh, it's like when I first realized, I'm like, I bet we're just going to see sequences. But when I remember that first sequence where you could see the monster in it, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this in a found footage like this before, you know?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember seeing that in the theater and just being completely blown away by that one. Yeah. All right, now our last two here. My number two, another one that's a franchise, but really the first one's the only one that I really, really like, and that is Rec from 2007. This is I think it was it French? I think Rec's French, right? Found footage film about a disease that is, Spanish. Sorry, Spanish. A disease that has basically taken over an apartment building, and it makes people sort of like zombie-esque, but it was super impactful in terms of found footage. Like it's always on near the top of these found footage lists. And for me, like I remember there was a jump scare in it so bad, like it was one of my top 5 jump scares of all time. It's on my top 5 jump scares of all time list. Wow. Not the number one. It might be
the jump scare expert.
Yeah, it might be number 2. It could literally be number 2. But it's it made the classic cliche scene of the woman being dragged into the darkness. Like that came from this movie. Like that didn't exist before this movie like popularized it. And now you see it everywhere. And so I just thought it blew me away when I saw it. I think it was probably one of the first foreign found footage films that I watched. And it just everything about it just like was like it seared on my brain. And then I remember when the American remake came out, and I didn't care for it that much. It was still good. It was a decent remake, but it just didn't have the same impact because I already knew what was going to happen and everything. But I just thought it was fantastic. So I have to put that one on there. There's been several sequels, of course. They're not as good.
Yeah. I still want to buy that Blu-ray set for it. Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of like it might be an unfair oversight for me, but it's because it kind of like I think, sometimes you forget when you don't see these when they first come out, where it like what it inspired and what it impacted, and I think it kind of just blended into me because I saw it so many years after it was out.
Yeah,
and so it's like to me, it probably just like was kind of like an oversight, but like. And it unfair to it because I probably saw so many things that it inspired first that like, and then when I finally saw this, not knowing really when it came out, it kind of got it blended in. But I remember enjoying it a lot. I don't remember any of the sequels. I know I want to say I saw at least the second one. I think there's 4, right?
Yeah, I think I've seen all of them.
I basically don't remember anything of the other one, the second one. I remember
I thought the second one was. I think the second one was fairly decent. Maybe I haven't seen 4. I saw the one where it was zombies, but they were like religious based. It was weird. Like you had to preach to them or something to get. I don't know. It was very strange. I didn't like that one.
Please, zombie, don't eat me.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Yeah. Well, we did toy about that as one of our Slaycation type things. So I mean, we could. Well, maybe now we should make that a definitive one so we can revisit it.
Yeah.
So here, my last two. Okay, so here's the ones where this could get controversial, I think, for some people. But I feel like once I announce number two, anyone that's been listening to the show is going to know my number one. But we'll see. But this is one, of course, that I have a feeling is going to be Tim's number one. But I feel like it has to be on the list, and that, of course, it's the Blair Witch Project
Yeah.
because it's obviously it really was the the start of the found footage, rebirth, so to speak. And what was so brilliant about it, though, but it's not just the movie was good, because if you look at the movie as a whole, it's like now you see what found footage does. You're like, well, they didn't do any of that. It's so basic what they did, but what they did is they spawned the generation. And I remember it was the viral marketing that came out on it. Like people thought it was real. They had all these like cool, like I was obsessed with it when it came out. Like I have all the books from it, and I have the Rustin Parr's diary excerpt, all these kind of cool things of about it. And I even had like they had the special, The Curse of the Blair Witch was like a little fake documentary about it. It was like they basically took because then you hear the story, and like some people said this is not really what happened the way it was, but like I guess they were hiding the cast to make it look even more real, and some people walked into it thinking it was a real documentary, like at Sundance or something. And I just remember my favorite story with my brother was at his friend's house in Long Island, and there's parts of Long Island where it's like deep in the woods of houses. These big houses are in, there's like maybe like it's like, and it's really dark driving out. My brother said he saw the trailer on like a computer and he was too afraid to go to go home because he's like, it was in the woods. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, and it was marketed so well. And the movie was like if you think about it, in its like in a real terms, it was a very basic found footage movie, but it did everything well. And it's why so many people like, well, I got to make this kind of movie now. Look at what they did with nothing, and they kind of made it really cool. And I'm gonna do the same thing. And you've seen so many imitations, but you have to give credit to this one because even while people have taken this to much better levels than they did in this, the simplicity of it was made this so great, and just the story and the premise behind it, you got caught up in it, and to that point you really hadn't seen something quite like that. So it's definitely on my list. There's no way it wasn't going to be in the top 10. It could have been like, there's some people that argue, well, it should have been your number one, but it's hard. But it definitely belongs obviously in the top three
Yeah, I had
for
to put it
me.
up on number one. Blair Witch Project was my number one, 1999. People don't remember that at this time, you did not have the internet as widespread as you do today, and people thought
Yeah.
this thing was real. And I know it
Yep.
sounds hilarious these days to think anybody could ever possibly think this was real, but they did. There was literally websites that were set up to make this look real, even though
Yeah.
like websites were in their infancy at the time. And you didn't have you just did not have the internet like you have today, the viralness of the internet that would make this seem this goes back just to backtrack, this goes back to what I was saying where you had to be there because at this time, and people who watch this years later don't understand that
Yeah.
found footage as we know it today did not exist uh, in the most popular form like it does now until this movie. So when people went to see this, it was unlike anything they'd ever seen before. It like I remember somebody in the theater getting up to there was people in the theater that would get up to go complain to the projectionist because it was not in widescreen. It was 4:3 ratio, and
That's
people
so
didn't know
funny.
what the
Yeah.
hell was going on. I mean, I remember being confused by it when I went in there. I was like, "What the hell? Why is this not widescreen? What, like did they mess up the projection?" Nobody knew. The reason why this was on my number one though is, and Ken knows this, our friend of the show, Ken. He drove up to me to Raleigh just to see this movie because it was not playing anywhere in Wilmington. So we had to drive an hour and a half away just to go see it, which could have been a disaster, right? It could have been terrible, but
Yeah.
it was a road trip. It was something fun to do, and I remember we were both just blown away by it, and we went to dinner right after it, and we just sat there and talked about the movie, and we had these realizations about the movie as we were talking, like, oh, did you notice this? Did you notice that? And it like the more we talked about it, the creepier it got. And so it was one of those, again, you had to be there. If you saw this movie years later after found footage had already saturated the market, you can't possibly understand the impact this movie had. Like when we watched it, nobody knew the formula of found footage movies. We didn't know the slow burn and the ending thing. None of that existed. We didn't know that this wasn't somewhat real. And to its credit, it felt so authentic because there was no script really.
Yeah.
So everything mostly was improvised. This happened well before people make found footage movies now, and they do them unimprovised, and it seems like some novel, uh, cool thing that they made it so authentic by not having a script. Where in Blair Witch Project did that from the very beginning. So
Yeah.
it was just, again, it was one of those things that basically there was no way I could not put this as my number one, just because of the impact it had on me personally and the impact it had on the whole horror industry as a whole. So yeah.
Yeah. When you think about it too, like the people that watch it now, or like there's this tendency one time when you like, and it's a natural like kind of like subconscious thing, but like when you feel like you've missed something like that, and people are talking about it, and you're going, you almost like want to go in and say, all right, let me impress me,
Yeah.
like the thrill me,
Yeah.
the Tom Atkins, like all right, thrill me, and you're gonna go in already with this like attitude, and
Yes.
you know what, and that's that like for a movie like this, which like while I said like I made it kind of sound almost like insulting, but it was not an insult. It was a compliment. The simplicity of it, people are expecting something that's gonna like, but you had to be there at the time. You had to be there. You had to be encompassed in it all. So you want to go in there in like you need to appreciate it for what it was. It's gonna be hard because someone nowadays, people are so jaded, and they're gonna go in there and like, well, I like this one better. This is much better, and it's like, say, okay, well, fine, like, but if you saw, like, if you knew the cultural impact of it, and you lived through the time of when it was like everyone was like, literally, you'd go to people who weren't even into horror would go, what's this Blair Witch thing I hear about? I heard it's a
Yeah.
documentary, and you're like, no, it's actually a movie, but it's made like a and people you couldn't even explain found footage to people then.
No, you
Like it
couldn't.
was, you had trouble if someone who didn't know what they saw, like, and you're trying to describe this movie, you're like, wait, that's it?
Like, the
And I'm
term
like,
didn't even really exist, right? Because
it
this was
didn't.
found footage from their excursion into the woods. Like,
Yeah.
somebody found this. That's where the whole thing came from, I think. I think that was
Yeah,
from this movie.
I mean, there were other movies like that. Like, was it the Loch Ness one that like Werner Herzog? What was it that he did? The one with the
Yeah.
Loch Ness monster. But that was like a fake doc. It wasn't the
Yeah,
same.
they had fake
Like it wasn't like,
documentaries, but, like,
yeah,
literally found, like, we found a
yeah.
camera. Like, that did
Like,
not
okay, yeah,
exist.
this is the like basically that was the yeah. I mean, it was like, okay, we don't know what happened to these people, but we found this footage they took, so maybe this will help explain it, kind of thing. Like that whole little like thing, I don't think was quite done in that way before. So yeah, can you imagine trying to explain that to somebody? You can't.
Yeah,
You'll
it
be like, what are you
was.
talking about? What do you mean they found footage of their camera and you watched it for an hour and a half? So yeah, so it's like I totally get why people nowadays wouldn't get the aura. I'm just glad we got to live through it,
Mhm.
because it's like one of these moments. Same thing with like years later when people watch Host, like you're gonna have the same thing.
Mhm.
They're not gonna understand the meaning it has to some people. They just won't, because you didn't live through it at the right time. Like kids during the pandemic, little kids are not gonna. They don't really knew the impact of it. They just knew, okay, I got to wear this mask today.
Mhm.
When I go outside, or I can't go, or how come I can't see my friends? Or some kids flat out were young enough that they really weren't developing friends yet, and then had to, So it's really like there's so many things. But anyway, I'll go to my number one, which I know probably anyone that's listened to the show knows what I'm gonna say. That's 1974, La Posición de Altair. And this is one because I think this is like as good of a found footage movie as it was. But like the thing was, I think it was that one where I remember I've told the story before. I was watching that 24-hour found footage festival. I kind of dozed off, woke up, and right as before this was starting, and I was just like, it like kind of like popped my eyes open. I'm like, what is this? And I just love that they used the 16 millimeter kind of footage, and it was grainy, and the fact that it was in is in the Spanish. I like, really had to focus what's going on, and like I didn't get like, I did, like didn't it seemed more like, I know this, I hope this doesn't sound totally offensive, but it seemed more realistic because I didn't know what they were saying, like, I
Yeah,
didn't, like
exactly.
that kind of thing. And it was so cool the way they did it. Like it really felt like, what it is, it felt so found footage because like it's almost like if you're, movies have done this where they're like, but it's not found footage where like a family will find like a box in the basement of a new house they've got into. Look at Sinister, right? They find these film reels and they watch it. Well, this is like as if you just got the film reels and you had no other contact. And I just thought it did it so well and so like cool and just it was creepiness and it was the fact that the guy was using an old, not a VHS tape but before that, it was like before VHS when they got like a film camera and that's what you took home movies with. And you don't see that as much. It's always VHS tapes now or something on a computer they find. So it's like to me that's like it got the thing. And granted, I know why that it's controversial because how do you put that above the Blair Witch? But I think I'm explaining why. It's like I know that this would not exist if Blair Witch didn't exist. But it was just that the time I saw this, that it blew me away. It surprised me. I never heard of it, and it's always going to be at the top of my list. I mean, maybe it may not hold the one spot always, but it's going to be one or two, I think, just because of all that.
Yeah, this was the one I was so afraid of leaving off the list because I thought Brian was going to kill me if I didn't have this on there.
No, because I
But
I
this
couldn't do that to anybody.
this one,
Choice.
along with Late Night with the Devil, I was like, I need some distance from this one. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I felt weird putting it on my list without some years behind it, with some distance away from it. But
for me, it was yours. That's why I saw it right when it was released.
Exactly. Like I just saw it like a few weeks ago, literally.
Because it finally and that was the thing. I've been telling people to watch this, and it was available nowhere.
Yeah.
Other than on like Spanish streaming service without subtitles. And then I'm like, if you don't speak fluent Spanish, you're not going to understand. Like I saw it with the subtitles, so I was okay. And I had the Blu-ray. But like, if you didn't have that, it like finally it appeared on, was it Roku?
There's a weird streaming channel. Well, I mean, who watches Roku channel? Nobody. But,
yeah. Like who, unless you have a Roku, you're not going to ever think to look there.
To me, I was like, I can't justify putting it on a movie on my top 10 list I just saw a few weeks ago. I can't do it. Like I got to have some distance from it. Love the movie, but I loved a lot of movies that didn't make the list. So
that's why I feel like these are always going to have some. It's going to be evergreen to a point.
Yeah.
There's some that will always like Blair Witch. I can never in good conscience ever remove it from the top 10. It just can't.
It's too.
And same
too
probably
iconic,
with Host too. And Host probably there too. It's just always going to stay on that list somewhere.
I mean, honestly, aside from Blair Witch Project and Host, I could probably take all of these off and fill in 8 more.
It's
put
hard.
In there.
This was a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it was really hard.
I guess so. That's what we should do. We should also like post our top 10s. We'll post them on social media at some point. In the next week or so. But I guess we should just quickly just finish it off with a couple of our honorable mentions here. I don't know if you want to go first with a couple.
You go first because I gotta. I mean, I've mentioned a couple.
I have about 10, and some I've said. So maybe I'll just go through the ones real quickly. The ones I talked about already: One Cut of the Dead, Ghostwatch, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, and Tape of Deborah Logan. Those are the ones that that we already know. So I'll just go. We'll alternate, I guess, the ones. This one is a new one that not new to us, kind of thing, I guess. It was The Horror in the High Desert, which I thought was just
loved it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. The second one was good. Not as good as the first, but still really good. And the third one is about to, I think, just hit at, like some festivals. So, and I think that the director said that like you'll soon be able to see it places really soon. So I am looking forward to it. That end sequence was so freaking creepy.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm like, and he
great.
did it in such a good way that I'm like, oh my God, I love this. It basically validated the entire movie. Because I didn't know where it was going. I have to say, it was confusing me. I wasn't sure where this is going to go. And then just the ending, like it's one of those movies where like that final scene, just like all of a sudden, like instantly, like it's almost like that. Like you ever see in like those like cartoons where like a Sailor Moon where they transform and all of a sudden it's like this rejuvenation thing, like it's like it was like that. Like I'm like, oh my God, this movie is amazing, kind of thing. Like it just hit me right. So
one of mine was, and I have to say this is a whole franchise. I know you haven't seen these yet, Brian, but I really wanted to put the Blackwell Ghost movies on here.
Well, I'm saving it now. I'm saving it for the horror challenge and our thing. I want to watch them all in like
because and the reason I didn't have them
Jeff Whitmire's probably screaming at us right now. He's like, why didn't neither one of you put that on?
But the reason I didn't have it on my top 10 is because I don't feel like any one movie was deserving of the top 10 because this This franchise is almost like one long movie. It just happens to be broken
Yeah.
up. And so I don't think you can put any one movie as like super good to be top 10 material, but the franchise as a whole is amazing. Like when you get the whole story and you follow it from the beginning all the way to what it is now, and it's still going. I think there's a new one out that I haven't
Yeah.
even watched yet. Um,
Well, it's up to 8, but there's 9 is coming, I think,
yeah,
right? Jeff said, or is 8 coming? I don't remember.
I don't
One of them
remember.
is about to come out.
Yeah, so it's like this one almost had to be like an entire, like I couldn't put one movie. I had to put the entire franchise. So I just said, I'm just going to save it for the honorable mention. That I'll throw it in there. But if you haven't seen the
You
Blackwell
know
Ghost series, oh my gosh, it's so good.
speaking of that, I think we should do a first ever and have when we do that for the Slaycation, have Jeff on both on our episodes of it. Like cuz he's such an expert, he knows so much about it. I think he'll add a really good like take to it. We haven't
Yes,
asked him yet, so he's probably hearing this now for the first time and going, "Sure guys, I'll do it."
he'll do
But
it.
yeah, no, I think he would be good for that like that sequence of movies for sure
Yeah,
because you know what it is what I love about what he does when when he finds a movie or a franchise he likes, he just dives into so much and comes up with some of the best information on it. So I think he'd be good for it.
yeah.
Next one that I want to put on there is the one I just recently seen again too, and these probably why some of these didn't make it because they're so recent. That's why I was like really struggling too with Late Night with the Devil. And that's Ratter. I don't know if you
Well, I
saw
haven't
that.
seen that
That's the
one
one with
yet.
like
Yeah,
yeah, that one's actually been and that one was kind of unique because I couldn't like I was watching it and I'm like, why is like you don't find out w- without spoiling it, I guess it's hard to say, but you don't find out really what the whole why it's a found footage necessarily until the very end. But it's got some of the ending sequence is just so kind of disturbing, and especially I can picture, and not to sound like sexist or anything, but I think a young woman, whoever might feel vulnerable, would even make this more uh traumatizing. It's so well done, I think. And it's like it's really cool. It's just like, and Ashley Benson I think was so good in it that it like she really like sold her role in it so well that it like made the movie. But that's one you should definitely check out. I think it's on a couple of services. I think it's on Tubi. I think it's on Plex. I think you would really like that one, Tim. It's really well done.
another one. I definitely want to see that one. Another one I had on here that was I had only seen recently because I think it was hard to find for a long time, and that was Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County, which was from
You know what?
1998.
That's on my watch list, and I haven't yet watched it
Yeah,
yet.
you
So
would
I
you would
kind of want to see
definitely
that.
maybe put this on your top 10 after you watched it because it's
Really?
about
Oh,
it was
okay.
a I think it was a TV movie, and it's about a family that basically gets basically aliens like invade their house, right? And but it's done so realistically, like it looks very real. It looks like home movies, and like I remember when I remember years later after this came out, people talking about and seeing an actual video that they thought was real of aliens in these people's houses. And
Was this on Fox News at one? Not Fox News, but Fox like channel. It
I
was
don't
Channel
know.
5 near
Yeah, I
me.
don't know, but
But
like there was after years after this, I remember people telling me like it was a real thing, like act like this is a real thing. Is it? People,
because I
some people
remember
thought it was
one like
real.
they yeah, because I remember one they had, and I thought it was just like a documentary, kind of like those fake documentary things. But it was where it was like I remember there was one sequence where they walked out to the outside and they saw these really tall aliens
Yeah,
like
that's
standing
it.
there
That's
or
it.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's it. Oh, I might have seen that then.
yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
this
Yeah,
came
you
out a
know what?
year before the Blair Witch Project, by the way, which is
Oh.
crazy. Like, so you talk about Blair Witch being like found footage. Like, this is actual. This one I would classify as actual found footage before Blair
Yeah, I
Witch
think
Project.
I saw this then. I think I like had it. I think I might have recorded on the VCR back when I knew it was coming on, but I didn't know what it was per
Yeah,
se. And I think my brother and I were like freaked out by it because I remember there's something with the tall
yeah,
like
it's creepy. I mean,
alien
it
part.
looks real. It's very well
Yeah.
done. Very well done.
Oh, I gotta watch this again now.
Yeah, I saw
What's
it
it called
recently for
again?
the heart.
It's so funny. I don't remember the title. It's Alien Abduction. What?
It's a alien abduction incident in Lake County.
That's right. Okay.
But it's I just
I
recently
don't think
saw
I
it.
ever knew the name of it. That's how much I remember like watching it, thinking it was like something like one of those it's like someone sent it in and was trying to fool people kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
it's fantastic. Yeah, like I just saw it recently for the heart. It was one of the horror challenges. I think I watched it, and it was
Ah,
great.
okay.
Yeah,
That's kind of funny though that like that was even before Blair Witch, and then no
I
one gave
know.
it
Well, I
credit.
don't think it was like I don't think you could because it was a TV movie. I don't think you could find it for a long time. Like I don't
Mm.
think it was even available for a while.
Maybe we need to like make it a feature in an episode so we
Yeah.
can really dig into it. Next one is this one. I was surprised this on neither one of our lists, and I bet people are screaming at us for not having this, but I know we both liked it in Lake Mungo,
I was gonna talk
which
about
I
like
never.
yeah, that one was also on my
Yeah,
list, and the reason I didn't have it is because I just didn't remember it enough. I remember seeing it and I remember really liking it, but I didn't remember it enough to be able to talk about it on the
yeah. I
list.
think that's one of the ones. I think this is the only one, like because I think everyone on my list I've seen multiple times,
Hmm.
and like that was one I saw once and
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
moved on from it, not because it was bad or anything. I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I love this." And then there's probably something another thing came up and I watch it and so it kind of like kind of like it's like hovering around the thing, but and like it's probably due for revisit, honestly.
Well,
But
I have another one on my list, Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. That's a
oh,
movie
that too.
that's
Yeah. I
way
haven't
high
yeah.
on. If you see it, it's way high on a lot of found footage lists. But number
Right,
one, I
right.
forgot it was
Yeah.
found footage. Number two,
Me too. I think I forgot it was found footage
I
also.
think I only saw it one time, and I remember,
That's when you know there's too many found
yeah,
footage movies now.
but I think I only saw it one time, and it's like years ago. I'm like, I can't speak about it because I don't even remember. Like, I'd have to rewatch it, but I
Yeah.
know it's great because it's on all these lists. But yeah, that
Yeah.
would definitely do a revisit.
Yeah, the last 3 that I have actually or, 2 of them I know we both liked a lot. The one I don't know if you saw the last one I'm gonna mention, but the first one was Dash Cam,
That was great.
which
Yeah,
of course we liked, Rob Savage's, and that one had like, they had still had the Host vibe to it with all the some people from Host in it, and stuff. So it was like, and that one was really good too. I just think it was like as good as I liked it and it did a lot of cool things. It was like I think it was one of those ones where it kind of like just it's similar to some other things, so it like didn't kind of like it didn't stand out enough for me to like put it on the list over some other ones.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
You have some more, right?
Yeah. So I was just kind of looking through some of these lists. Some of the ones that I liked, but again, this kind of goes back to the same thing I was talking about, where I haven't seen them in a while, so I didn't feel like I could like super talk intelligently about them. Was Grave Encounters was one.
Yeah.
Uh,
I thought that one was good. That one see that one to me was like almost like similar a little bit to the Gonjiam, but just Gonjiam did it better.
yeah, and I again,
So
it was one of those like I know it was I enjoyed it when I saw it, but I haven't watched it in so
mm.
long.
And I think the sequel wasn't as good too. It kind of
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
sometimes a sequel could like sully your remembrance of the first
exactly.
one when they're
Yeah,
they're similar enough. Yeah. This one is another one and this one I think is the only reason I didn't put this on the list is because it is so new and I didn't want to have two ones I just saw on here. And Late Night with the Devil, I think it's just I like because I David DiMaggio, but Frogman I loved, and like
yeah.
it's gonna be. I think like if I did this next year, Frogman would be on probably the list because I just love cryptid stuff and like but I'm like, am I gonna put too many cryptids on here? It's too new. Am I gonna put too many new ones? It's like funny. Sometimes I feel like the pressure of this list and what people's reactions could sway things sometimes. But I mean, Frogman is one of my favorite movies of the year,
Yeah,
so it's
same
like
here.
it.
It went for the same reason that Late Night with the Devil didn't go on here. It was just too
Yeah.
new. I couldn't in good conscience do it. There's one on here that I see listed a lot that I don't think I've ever seen, and that is As Above, So Below. Another one from
You know what?
2014.
I keep seeing that like on movie things, and I keep also and like I read the artwork is very one of those very iconic ones,
Yeah,
but I don't think I've seen it either. That's the problem. It's like so I'm like trying to think.
and another 2014. Like that was a hell of a year for found footage movies, apparently. But I don't think that I saw this one. Now I'm gonna have to go see it because like it was the number one on like the IMDb top 100 found footage horror movies. So
And what's it
As Above, So
above?
Below. And it's about it's about the catacombs, like the French catacombs, which I've always thought was fascinating anyway. So I don't know why I've never seen this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. You know what? I know this is gonna sound so stupid, but I keep getting it confused with that. What was that one? Oh my god, I can't even think of the movie. The one with it had all the Beatles songs in it. What's that one with the movie I'm talking about?
Across the Universe? Like was it a horror movie?
Yes,
Oh,
I don't know why.
oh, Across the
Because
Universe.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but somehow I don't know. It's like if for some reason they blend it in my head together,
Yeah, it's probably a
and I'm
different movie.
and it's nothing to do with each other. But it's like I think it's maybe I mean, it could be the A title, it could be something with the artwork that maybe connected it somehow, or I don't know. But for some reason, I every time I see that, I keep thinking I'm like thinking it's the Across the Universe movie, and I don't know
Well,
why.
see,
It has nothing to do
I
with.
read a book by Jeremy Bates, and it was about people going into the catacombs under Paris, just like this movie. And his books feel like you're watching a horror movie. Like they're written, they feel like a
Hmm.
B horror movie. They're just
Well,
written
now
that
we
way.
might need to put this on our list
I
to
know. So
watch for an
when
episode.
I saw this, I was like, "Oh, I've seen that." But then I'm thinking, "No, I didn't see it. I'm thinking about the book, which is not the movie. It's a completely different story, but it's the same setting." So I'm feeling like I'm thinking I watched this because I read that book, but I don't
Ugh.
think I did. And Letterbox
And of
says I
course
did
it's
not see it.
yeah, and of course it's not available for free anywhere.
Of course, yeah.
It's rental at least,
I'm
but like
surprised Tubi doesn't have it because Tubi failed us on the streaming service of
oh well,
requirement.
well if you have the History Channel Vault for some reason, it's on that.
Uh,
But it's I mean it's under $4 rental, so I mean it's not the end of the world.
I'm gonna have to.
Or maybe one day I'll rent it on Vudu and like I'll just tell you when I rent it so we can both watch it. Um, but yeah, so and then one final one I want to put on. This is one that was a Jeff Whitmire one. It's funny, I saw this the same time as the same found footage festival I saw La Possession de Alter, and that's I Blame Society. I can't remember. Did you ever end up
No,
watching that?
no, I don't.
So it's interesting. So it's like one of these meta things where this girl plays herself, and some of the other people they didn't play themselves, and where she wants to commit the perfect murder. So she kind of does this like found footage documentary, like her like journey through to try and commit the perfect murder. She's convinced she can do it.
Oh, that sounds
So she
cool.
does it. It is really cool. And it's like it's got some weird sequence. It's definitely not like more that psychological horror because you're like, oh, this is kind of like this person's like messed up, that she thinks she could do that, and just kind of her journey through. But it's actually really good. I remember I sent it to Jeff Whitmire and he like loved it. He's like, oh my god, this is amazing. So I don't know if it's on. It was at one point on Shudder. I don't think it is anymore. Let me see if I could if it's on anything though now. I think it was at one point on Tubi too. Oh, you're in luck. It's on Tubi, it's on free for Vudu with ads, and it's
Okay,
on Freevee, which is Amazon. So you got your choices.
nice.
Tubi though, of course you'll probably right in the middle of a sentence they'll cut it into a commercial, but although they've been getting better, I've noticed they have been getting a little better with their commercial spots. But yeah, so you can watch it on a number of sources. So I would check that one out. I think you like it. I mean, you need movies for your challenge anyway, so
Exactly.
it's a pretty decent runtime.
Nice.
So, but it's cool. It's different. It was different, so that's why it was like it almost like I wanted to find a spot to put it on my list just because it's so different, but I just
Yeah,
couldn't.
10 slots
I
is
just
not a
couldn't
lot.
find a spot to. Yeah, it was hard to sneak in there over some other ones, but yeah, this one. I think this. Yeah, I have a feeling people are going to be like adding us all once this episode comes out. Like, what do you mean? How'd you not put this on there? Or like, you put this on in there and this not. But you know what? I think we backed
I'll
it up
totally agree with you, probably,
properly.
because
We gave our reasons why.
yeah, I told Brian, I was like, I don't think I'm even happy. I think we said this. We said this even before the recording. I don't think either of us was really happy with our list, even when we put it out there, but we had to just commit to it. So, yeah. All right, guys. So we will.
Yeah,
We're going to
I
have
don't know
our
if this is going to
dismemberment.
affect
Our
it, but
April
I'm seeing a
dismemberment's
thing that's
coming
saying,
out
"Oh,
tomorrow. Are you still there?
wait, can you hear me, Tim?
Yeah.
Because we cut out a little bit
Yeah, I can
a
hear you.
second
Yeah, I
ago.
can hear you.
Yeah, it was saying it was doing that. Oh, okay, because it was doing that thing saying like we're trying to reestablish a recording, so we might want to just do that last
Okay.
segment.
All right. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back here with our April dismemberment. Catch you up on the week that we missed, and hopefully we'll get to do some more of these top 10 lists, down the road. If you have any ideas for
Yeah,
top
no, I
10
think
lists you'd like us to do, definitely send them in to us at our Civil Gore podcast at gmail.com.
yeah, actually that's a good idea because we want to be able to do that, and we also may be eliminating the website that nobody used anyway. So
Yeah.
so definitely email it to us through
Yeah.
the Civil Gore podcast at gmail.com. But yeah, because we would love to do more of these. I think we, definitely top 10 slasher is one we need to put in there.
Yeah, I was thinking top 10 haunted
I mean,
house
but
movies.
yeah, and I want to kind of get creative, like maybe like top 10, like even like top 10 jump scares, but things like that, like specific things, but also maybe top 10 like things that like rekindled your love of horror, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like get really in depth. I mean, because we could that could give us like 1,000 episodes, honestly, if we keep coming up with these things, and it'll be kind of interesting.
yeah,
Maybe we'll get better at them as they go
yeah.
along. Be a lot easier.
All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you back here next time.